Over this key real quickly. Then I'll make a couple of comments overall about the exams. Spelling, don't need to say anything about that, but that is why I put all these in there. Okay, if you're writing anything about any author, the least you can do, get the author's name spelled right. Okay? I'm probably not the only one in the department who, if you repeatedly misspell an author's name that you're writing about, you're going to fail that assignment. So, similarly, major character that you're writing about, like Gandalf, Aragorn, Boromir. I had a variety of spellings for all three of these. Aragon with a R, Aragon like the Christopher Paolini books, E-R-A, Gandalf, he suddenly became Italian. Boromir became Russian, and it was Bolomir and Bodomir. Middle Earth is always with a hyphen and a lowercase e. Okay? Don't trust spell checkers, because the spell checker will never catch. And this is one of the most common misspellings you'll see. The spell checker will never catch the difference between form and from. They're both perfectly acceptable words in the English language. Spell checkers do not check for context at all. Okay? So I would not trust it at all. WW, wrong word, means the word you used in that particular situation is wrong. It's not where it's close, it's entirely wrong. Okay? Word choice doesn't mean the word's wrong. It just means there's a better choice for the word there. Often with the word choice, I'll write in a suggestion. Subject-verb agreement, you've got a plural verb with a singular subject, or vice versa. Plural subject with a singular verb. They, is. Okay? Is not grammatical English. Similarly, and this is where it usually trips up students, you have something like the dog and cat is going. No, because the dog and cat together make a compound subject. There's two people there, or two entities there. So it's the dog and cat are going, okay? Apostrophe, you've not put one in, there needs to be one in. Usually only a couple instances when we need an apostrophe, right? You're doing a contraction, it's, not it possessive, but it is, okay? Or the boys possessive, B-O-Y apostrophe S kind of a thing. You don't want it's when it is a pronoun that is possessive, right? Take my history of the English language class if you're interested in why that's all screwed up, because it is. Comma splice, you're joining two independent clauses with just a comma. Boromir wants the ring, comma. He tries to take it from Frodo. That would have a CS written over. Why? Two independent clauses, two separate, complete, whole sentences. Subject, verb, object in each of them. So what do you need to do in order to make that not a comma splice? Notice what comma splice means. You're using a comma, and like with film editing, you're splicing together two separate pieces of film. Here, two separate sentences with just the comma. So you need some kind of conjunction there. Boromir wants the ring, so he tries to take it from Frodo. Or, comma, and he tries to take it from Frodo. Or, comma, because he tries to take it from Frodo. Or, change the comma to a semicolon. Perfectly good, okay? Antecedent usually refers to, you've got a pronoun and it's not clear what the pronoun is referring back to. Or you've got the pronoun, and the pronoun is they, and the thing the pronoun refers back to is Frodo. That's plural, that's singular. Pronouns have got to match with the nouns that they refer to, okay? In terms of what's called case, number, and gender. Fragment, you've got part of a sentence, but you don't have a complete sentence. You've got maybe this part. Boromir wants. What does Boromir want? That kind of verb means there has to be an object. Okay? Maybe what you have is this. To take it from Frodo. It's not a sentence. Why? There's no subject. Okay? You've got a verb phrase without a subject. So, sentence has got to be complete. Awkward. This is a kind of a touchy-feely one. It's a subjective one. But it means what you've written is clunky. It's not clear. Okay? Ambiguous, or sometimes I have vague. It's exactly what it sounds like. Okay. Ambiguity is wonderful if you are writing poetry, because then it means whatever you want it to mean as a reader. Ambiguity is not good when you're trying to write, or when you are writing a paper where you are explaining or arguing a point or idea. You don't want your reader to have any point where the reader goes, I wonder what he means by that. It ought to be so clear it smacks me across the face. Okay? This just means delete, remove something. It's usually drawn through a word. Maybe you've got an extra word that's not needed, or one or two. Might not have been in this class, might have been in one of my other classes. People had like extra spaces between paragraphs, so it's just drawn through the blank space. This means insert something, and that something is either going to be up here or down here. If it's down here, it's probably a mark of punctuation. If it's up here, it's probably a word. Okay? Another thing I did not include, this, which means transpose. We'll get to that in just a second. Okay? 3 lines under something mean capitalize that letter. You know, like the first letter of somebody's name. Okay? A line drawn through with LC written over a capital letter mean make it lowercase. Similarly, title, The Lord of the Rings, underlined or in italics. Not both. Okay? Not in bold print, not in some fancy, screwy font. Believe me, I've seen it all. I've had students actually download the Harry Potter font and do papers in the Harry Potter font with crooked letters and all that kind of stuff. Okay? But when you refer to the title of a novel, so any of the Harry Potter novels, that title needs to either be underlined or in italics, not in quotation marks. Okay? This, for those of you who can see that, it's this thing goes over one word and under the other word. It means switch the order of those. Turn them around. I usually only use it in cases like to not mention ... Okay? I'll do this. Why? Because this, to, and mention is the verb. Not is what you're trying to do to that verb. You're trying to negate that. So you want to put not in front of all that. You don't want to say to not mention the good, the bad, the ugly. You want to say not to mention the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay? punctuation's pretty clear, you've left one out. It might be a period, it might be whatever, okay? And I've also used this for marks of punctuation. For example, like this. You get to the end of a quote, and what do? You have your quote in, your quotation marks, your citation, your mark of punctuation goes there. Okay? There are only 2 instances where you keep the original mark of punctuation, if there was one, in the actual quote. Okay? Those 2 instances are an exclamation mark or a question mark. Then you still put a period after the citation. Okay? It's the only time that you include those 2 marks of punctuation if they're there in the original. This possessive case means there needs to be an apostrophe S, and you don't have it. Okay? Frodo ring. Boromir tried to get Frodo ring. I think was a sentence I saw in either this class or my night class or my other morning class. I can't remember which one. Okay? Tense, you've got the wrong verb tense. You've had in the same sentence a present tense form of the verb, and now you've got a past tense form of the verb. Or you have, something like, he was supposed to go, blah, 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 blah. Okay? With this verb in front of this verb also needs to be past tense. He was supposed to go. He was used to getting his own way. Okay? Non sequitur, it's just a Latin term that means it does not follow. That is, what you've said in a following or subsequent clause doesn't make sense based upon the previous clause. That is, you've not made a cause and effect kind of statement, but you're trying to make a cause and effect kind of statement. Okay? And I should have written down the exact example, but I didn't. It means make this part of a paragraph into a new paragraph. Everything after that. That just means very, I use it, usually you made a good point, very good, something like that. Nothing else really there. There were grades, in case you're curious, grades ranged from C+, I think it was, maybe a B. No, that was another class. C+ to F. Okay. Weren't more Fs than there were more Cs. It was fairly even, and a few Ds in between. But I mean, it was pretty much on that that kind of distribution. Most of the Fs were not because of the content, what you were trying to say, but because I couldn't determine what you were trying to say because of all of these kinds of errors. If I can't make sense out of it, or if it is full of errors, it's going to get a failing grade. Look at the, if you still have it, the paper topic assignment, whatever you call it. And what do I say? Free from grammatical and spelling errors. That argues a strongly worded thesis. And then, direct quotations. One person didn't have any quotations. Okay? You had to have 5 direct quotations from the Lord of the Rings. One person had 5 direct quotations, but they weren't from the Lord of the Rings, according to what they had written on the Works Cited page. It was a book about the Lord of the Rings, but it wasn't the Lord of the Rings. Here's the funny thing. The actual quotations in the paper were from the Lord of the Rings. The book on the Works Cited page wasn't the book they were talking about. I had no idea what happened. What else? I think that's about it. Okay, this grade will not sink you, okay, if you got an F. If you got an F, you got a 55. Even if yours was one that was handed in late, it's still a 55, okay? It's real easy to pull a 55 up to a C minus. C minus is 70 points. Just means you have to do 15 points better on the next one. So you have to get essentially a B on the next one to raise that F up to a C minus. And you still have one more exam, one more paper, and I may come up with some kind of extra credit assignment. I often do. I just don't know, have any idea what it would be at this point. Okay. Prisoner of Azkaban. I'm going to try. Which classes? It's not that one. We're supposed to be on Prisoner of Azkaban today and Thursday. I'm going to try to get us so that we can finish Prisoner of Azkaban today, because that will that'll give us a little bit more leeway a little bit later on in the semester. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Now I think we left off. Correct me if I'm wrong. With Grim Defeat, we got through Flight of the Fat Lady, or got to the end of that chapter. And there's not much that I want to say about the Grim Defeat chapter, other than that Harry does see the big black dog out on the grounds. You know, at first when he sees it, he thinks he's seeing things. Then he realizes he isn't. Let's see here. So I want to pick up with, the chapter begins, we've already seen, the previous chapter ends with Sirius Black has attacked the school, has attacked the fat lady in particular, trying to get into the Gryffindor common room. So the fat ladies run off, etc. Harry explains to McGonagall that he knows Sirius Black is after him. McGonagall's just kind of, asking Harry to stay safe. And they go off to Defense Against the Dark Arts, page 170 it looks like. And Lupin isn't there. Snape is sitting in for Lupin. Okay, so Harry starts asking questions. And Snape starts to criticize Lupin's teaching, page 170. As I was saying before Potter interrupted, Professor Lupin has not left any record of the topics you have covered so far. In other words, he's not a good administrator. He's not a good record keeper. He doesn't have a set of lesson plans that he's strictly following. Okay? And so Hermione starts to tell him what Lupin has done. Snape directly criticizes Lupin. Dean Thomas says, he's the best Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher we've ever had. Okay, that's not really a ringing endorsement when you think of whom they've had. They've had Quirrell, and they've had Lockhart. Snape, you are easily satisfied. Lupin is hardly overtaxing you. So today we shall discuss, and notice he goes to the very back of the textbook. Okay, they're still fairly early on in the year. He goes to the topic to be discussed at the end of the year, werewolves. Hermione says we're not supposed to start werewolves yet. We're supposed to start Hinky Pinks. Okay, so he tells them what to do, starts asking questions about how you determine a werewolf from a true wolf. So he has them write a long essay. Let's see here. Quidditch match comes and goes. Well, it doesn't quite go. It's pouring down rain. Hermione fixes Harry's glasses so he can see through them in pages 178 and 79. Harry sees, as he's going, let's see. Yeah, top of 178. Harry sees the silhouette of an enormous, shaggy black dog, clearly imprinted against the sky. His hands slip on his broom handle, and his broom drops a few feet. Wood yells to Harry. Harry sees the snitch. He goes after it. And we're told right in the middle of the page. But something was happening. Something odd was happening. An eerie silence was falling across the stadium. Harry feels like he's gone deaf. And then he feels that cold that he felt on the train. He takes his eyes off the snitch and he looks down at the ground, and there's 100 Dementors, we're told at least, looking up at him. And Harry hears somebody screaming, "Not Harry, not Harry, please, not Harry. Stand aside, you silly girl, stand aside now. Not Harry, please, no. Take me, kill me instead." There's the sacrifice. Okay? "Not Harry, please, have mercy, have mercy." He wakes up and finds out, obviously, he passed out, okay? 50 feet up. Notice, Harry, but the match. He's not concerned about did we lose? Did we win? Diggory got the snitch, Cedric Diggory. Pretty boy, book 4. Okay. What happens to Harry's Nimbus 2000?
Right. It shatters.
Yeah, it's not just broken and shatters. It's chopped almost into 1,000 little pieces like matchsticks. Because where did it fly off to? The Whomping Willow beat the snot out of it. Okay? So we get to chapter 10. So not only has Harry lost the Quidditch match because he couldn't stay on his broom because the Dementors were troubling him, but Cedric Diggory, what house is Cedric Diggory in? Hufflepuff. Hufflepuff. Okay? So we get chapter 10 in the Marauders map. They go back to Defense Against the Dark Arts. Lupin is back. And page 185, Lupin is told that Snape said they had to write 2 rolls of parchment about werewolves. Lupin, don't worry. I'll speak to Snape. You don't have to do the essay. So the others go off, and Lupin tells Harry he'd like him to stay behind. He wants to talk to him for a minute. And he tells Harry about the Whomping Willow, how it was planted the same year that Lupin arrived at Hogwarts. Okay? Harry asked, "Did you hear about the Dementors?" "Yes, I did. I don't think any of us have seen Professor Dumbledore that angry." "Harry, why do they affect me like that? Am I just..." And Lupin cuts him off. He doesn't really let him finish. "It has nothing to do with weakness. The Dementors affect you worse than the others because there are horrors in your past that the others don't have." Horrors in the past that what others don't have? None of them? Okay, Hermione obviously not, because she grew up with dentists. I mean, she's had a very mundane, middle-class life. What about the Weasleys? Has Ron suffered any personal tragedy like Harry has? No. What about Neville? Neville has. Some of the others have. We're going to find out in books 5 and 6 and 7, like Hannah Abbott. Okay. Dementors are among the foulest creatures that walk this earth. They infest the darkest, filthiest places. They glory in decay and despair. They drain peace, hope, and happiness out of the air around them. Even muggles feel their presence, though they can't see them. Get too near a Dementor, every good feeling, every happy memory will be sucked out of you. If it can, the Dementor will feed on you long enough to reduce you to something like itself, soulless and evil. Notice, a human, therefore, that has had the Dementor's kiss, Lupin says, is evil. Why? Because it's soulless. A human without a soul, what's one of the rages on TV and kind of in popular culture today? Walking Dead. Zombies are soulless. Well, what do? They try to add more to their, to their state, as it were. And you'll be left with nothing but the worst experiences of your life. And the worst that happened to you, Harry, is enough to make anyone fall off a broom. You have nothing to feel ashamed of. Harry, I can hear Voldemort murdering my mom. Lupin makes a sudden motion. Harry asks why the Dementors came. Lupin says because they're hungry. Dumbledore won't let them into the school, so the Dementors have to stay outside the school. And what do they sense? Man, this is like the greatest feeding trough they could wish for. Several hundred students, faculty, staff. And then Lupin says, Azkaban must be terrible. Set on a tiny island, way out to sea, but they don't need walls and water to keep the prisoners in. Not when they're all trapped inside their own heads, incapable of a single cheerful thought. Most of them go mad within weeks. Harry, yeah, but Sirius Black escaped. Black must have found a way. Harry, you made that Dementor back off. Well, there are defenses. Harry, can you teach me? So Lupin says, okay, I'll try. George and Fred come up to Harry before the Christmas holidays, and they present him, page 191, with a piece of parchment. And George says, this, Harry, is the secret of our success. It's a wrench giving it to you, says Fred, but we decided last night, your needs greater than ours. Okay? Harry's needs outweigh their needs. So, they talked about stealing it from Filch. In other words, they filched it from Filch. They tap the parchment and say, I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good. And the words appear. Messrs. Mooney, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs, purveyors of aids to magical mischief makers, are proud to present the Marauder's map. Map showing every detail of the Hogwarts castle and grounds. Every hidden passageway. Okay? Notice, it goes all the way to the borders of the grounds of the school. It doesn't go outside. So it doesn't go into Hogsmeade, for example. It goes like halfway, but not all the way there. Okay? And Fred says there are 7 passages in all. He talks about the ones that are blocked up, etc. Okay? He reminds Harry to wipe it when you're done, tap it, say mischief managed. And then George says, see you in Honeydukes. Why do they give it to Harry? What can't he legally do? He can't go to Hogsmeade. But with this, he can sneak in. Okay? And Harry's thinking of what Mr. Weasley said. Never trust anything that can think for itself if you can't see where it keeps its brain. What did Dumbledore say at the beginning of the year? All passages, okay, are being watched by Dementors. So, Harry figures out where he wants to go. And he sneaks up behind Ron and Hermione in Honeydukes. He's got his invisibility cloak on so they can't see him. They leave Honeydukes and they go on up to the 3 broomsticks. Harry, Ron, and Hermione sit down. And we see on page 201, McGonagall and Flitwick come in, followed by Hagrid, and then Cornelius Fudge. So Hermione kind of moves the Christmas tree around a little bit. Okay. And they eavesdrop on this conversation. I don't want to read all of it. Pick up with 203. Madame Rosmerta says, and this just, I think is a pretty good example of how detailed Rowling is on her search for names. Rosmerta is the name of a Celtic goddess of hospitality, a tavern worker, or a pourer of wine and libations. So she says, of all the people to go over to the dark side, Sirius Black was the last I'd have thought. I mean, I remember him when he was a boy at Hogwarts. If you'd have told me then what he's going to become, I'd have said you'd had too much mead. Fudge. You don't know the half of it, Rosmerta. The worst he did isn't widely known. Do tell. Okay? What could be worse? McGonagall. You remember who his best friend was? Of course. Quite the double act, Sirius Black and James Potter. Harry drops his tankard. McGonagall, precisely. Black and Potter, ringleaders of their little gang. Both very bright, of course, exceptionally bright, in fact. But we've never had such a pair of troublemakers. Hagrid, I don't know, Fred, George Weasley, Flitwick, you'd have thought they were brothers. Potter trusted Black, Fudge says, beyond all his other friends. Nothing changed when they left school. Black was best man when James married Lily. Then they named him godfather to Harry. Look at the information Harry's getting. The guy who's out to get him, okay, who he already knows was kind of right-hand man to Voldemort, was best friends with his father, whom Voldemort killed. He was made godfather to Harry. You can imagine how the idea would torment him, because Black turned out to be in league with you-know-who. Worse than even that, my dear. Not many people are aware that the Potters knew you-know-who was after them. Dumbledore, who was, of course, working tirelessly against Voldemort, one of them tipped him off. He alerted James and Lily, okay? And he mentions the Fidelius charm. So Flitwick, who's the charms professor, mentions how the Fidelius charm works. Madame Rosmerta, so Black was their secret keeper. Of course, says McGonagall. Okay? Barely a week after the Fidelius charm was performed, Black betrayed them, Madame Rosmerta asks. Fudge, he did indeed. Hagrid, filthy, stinking turncoat. Shh, Hagrid, I met him. Must have been the last to see him before he killed all them people. It was me what rescued Harry from Lily and James's house after they was killed. Just got him out of the ruins, poor little thing. Great slash across his forehead. Sirius Black turns up on that flying motorbike he used to ride. Never occurred to me what he was doing there. Notice what Hagrid has done. Does he know what Sirius was doing there? No, he jumps to one great big whopping conclusion. Okay? Hagrid finishes his story, and Madame Rosmerta says, but he didn't manage to disappear. The Ministry of Magic caught up with him the next day. Notice what her questions imply. Well, this is kind of weird. Why wouldn't he have disappeared? Fudge, if only we had. It wasn't we who found him, it was little Peter Pettigrew, another of the Potter's friends. Pettigrew, that fat little boy who's always tagging around. Hero worship, Black and Potter, says McGonagall. Not quite in their league talent-wise. Okay. So we find out Pettigrew trapped Sirius Black. And what are we said? What are we told? Page 208. Nobody but trained hit wizards from the magical law enforcement squad would have stood a chance against Black once he was conquered. And Fudge says, I still dream about it sometimes. A crater in the middle of the street, so deep it had cracked the sewer below, bodies everywhere, muggles screaming, and Black standing there laughing, with what was left of Pettigrew in front of him. A heap of blood-stained robes and a few fragments. Okay? So, what happened to Black? Black was taken away by 20 members of the magical law enforcement squad. Pettigrew received the Order of Merlin First Class. And Madame Rosemary says, is it true he's mad? Page 209, Fudge. I wish I could say that he was. I certainly believe his master's defeat unhinged him for a while. The murder of Pettigrew, all those muggles, was the action of a cornered and desperate man. Yet I met Black on my last inspection of Azkaban. You know, most of the prisoners in there sit muttering to themselves in the dark. There's no sense in them. Why not? They're going crazy because of the guards. Talked about this in my class last night. You know, what would an example be of Azkaban today?
Silence? Yeah, crazy.
Almost like an asylum, yeah. Because it definitely wouldn't be one of our prisons. At all. Okay? You know, the example I used last night was maybe a concentration camp. But even there, the Nazi guards didn't suck all happiness and joy out of the people in the prisons. Yeah, most of them ended up dying. Okay? But it's not the same. So, I met Black on my last inspection. But I was shocked at how normal Black seemed. He spoke quite rationally to me. Excuse me. It was unnerving. You'd have thought he was merely bored. Asked if I finished with my newspaper. Said he missed doing the crossword. And he was one of the most heavily guarded in the place. That is, Dementors outside his door, day and night. So, you know, imagine Sirius probably has a cell about this big. And there's a Dementor right there. How long is he there? Okay, Harry's in his third year, 12 years. Okay. Madame Rosmerda, what do you think he's broken out to do? He's not trying to rejoin you-know-who, is he? Fudge, well, probably. We hope to catch him before then. Notice he doesn't say he's out to get Harry. Okay. So, McGonagall says it's time for you to go back up to the castle, Cornelius, you know, have dinner with Dumbledore. They all leave. Ron and Hermione look under the table at Harry, and they're just staring at him, lost for words. He gets back to the castle, and he's just thinking of everything he heard. Page 213. A hatred such as he had never known before was coursing through Harry like poison. He could see Black laughing at him through the darkness, as though somebody had passed the picture from the album over his eyes, pasted the picture. He watched, as though somebody was playing him a piece of film, Sirius Black blasting Peter Pettigrew, who resembled Neville Longbottom, into 1,000 pieces. And then he hears that voice. Ron says, Harry, you look terrible. Harry, I'm fine. Hermione, listen, Harry. You shouldn't pay too much attention to what we heard yesterday. Like what? Like trying to go after Black. You won't, will you, Harry? Page 214. Ron, Black's not worth dying for. You know what I see and hear every time a Dementor gets too near me? Notice, he's never told them this before. They shake their heads. I can hear my mom screaming and pleading with Voldemort. And if you'd heard your mom screaming like that, just about to be killed, you wouldn't forget it in a hurry. And if you found out someone who was supposed to be a friend of hers betrayed her and sent Voldemort after her, Hermione, there's nothing you can do. The Dementors will catch him. Harry, you've heard Fudge. The Dementors don't affect him. Ron, so what are you saying? You gonna kill Black or something? Hermione, don't be silly, Ron. Harry would never think that. And Harry's like, yeah. Harry, Malfoy knows. Remember what he said to me in Potions? If it was me, I'd hunt him down myself. I'd want revenge. So you're going to take Malfoy's advice? Harry, Malfoy's dad must have told him. He was right in Voldemort's inner circle. Ron, you know who? So obviously the Malfoys knew Black was working for Voldemort. So Hermione says, Harry, come on, don't do this. Okay? And then Ron says, let's go see Hagrid. Hermione, no, Harry's not supposed to leave the castle. Harry, yeah, let's go see Hagrid. Why does Harry want to talk to Hagrid?
He was there.
He's known Hagrid for 3 years. Hagrid hasn't told him diddly squat about what happened to his parents, about who Sirius Black is. Okay? So they make their way down. What mental frame of mind is Harry in when they go down to Hagrid's? Or what emotional state is he in? Reckless? Angry? Pissed? Yes. What's he thinking about? What's he focusing on?
It's revenge.
Revenge. So he's focusing on himself. He's focusing on his pain, his anger, his loss. Okay? And they get down there. Hagrid opens the door. His eyes are red and swollen. Tears are splashing down his face. And Hermione's like, what is it, Hagrid? Harry sees a note, a letter, and reads it. Okay? Hagrid's not in trouble, but page 218. We must register our concern about the hippogriff in question. We have decided to uphold the official complaint of Mr. Lucius Malfoy. This matter will therefore be taken to the Committee for the Disposal of Dangerous Creatures. Okay. What does a entity with the name Committee for the Disposal of Dangerous Creatures do? It kills them. Notice, it's not a committee to determine the dangerousness of creatures. It's already been predetermined. Ron says, but you said Buckbeak is a bad hippogriff. He'll get off. Hagrid, you don't know them gargoyles. They've got an end for interesting creatures. Interesting. With Hagrid, that brings up a whole realm of possibilities, like Aragog and... Okay. So they see Buckbeak lying in the corner, chomping on something, oozing blood all over the floor. And they're kind of repelled by that. And Hagrid says we couldn't leave him out in the cold. So Hermione says, you'll put up a strong defense, Hagrid. I'm sure you can prove Buckbeak is safe. Won't make a difference. Why? They're in Lucius Malfoy's pocket. Harry, what about Dumbledore, Hagrid? He's done more than enough for me already. Got enough on his plate with keeping them Dementors out of the castle. Ron and Hermione look quickly at Harry. Okay? Notice, narrator tells us as though they expect Harry to jump on Hagrid for not having told Harry about Sirius Black. But what does Harry do? Listen, Hagrid, you can't give up. Hermione's right. You just need a good defense. You can call us as witnesses. Okay? So, Hagrid talks about the Dementors, page 220. Them Dementors make me feel really terrible and all. Gotta walk past them every time I want to drink in the Three Broomsticks. It's like being back in Azkaban. Is it awful in there, Hagrid? You have no idea. Never been anywhere like it. Thought I was going mad. Kept going over horrible stuff in me mind. The day I got expelled from Hogwarts. The day me dad died. The day I had to let Norbert go. You can't really remember who you are after a while. And you can't see the point of living at all. I used to hope I'd just die in me sleep. When they let me out, it was like being born again. Everything came flooding back. Hermione. But you were innocent. Hagrid. Think that matters? They don't care. Long as they got a couple of hundred humans stuck there with them so they can leech all the happiness out of them, they don't give a damn who's guilty and who's not. How did Hagrid arrive in Azkaban? Let's say the first time. 51 years ago now.
Because he was accused of opening the chamber.
He's accused of opening the Chamber of Secrets. And did he have a trial? No. And then last year he went back. Did he have a trial? No. Huh. Hagrid went quiet for a moment. Then he said quietly, thought of just letting Buckbeak go, trying to make him fly away. But how do you explain to a hippogriff it's got to go into hiding? And I'm scared of breaking the law. Tears down his face. I don't want to ever go back to Azkaban. So you got a 10-foot tall giant, half giant, crying like a baby. What does that kind of tell you about Azkaban? Okay. But what effect does this going down to Hagrid's have on Harry?
Kind of brings him back to reality.
Brings him back to reality. What do you mean by reality?
To the real issues that focusing on himself is focusing on.
Exactly. He's no longer focusing on himself. Or to use language that Dumbledore used in the first book, he's no longer nearsighted. Now he sees beyond the end of his nose. What does he do? He goes down there, focusing on his pain, his anger, his need for answers. He hears about Hagrid's pain, and it's like, Harry lets go of his own. The trip to Hagrid's, though far from fun, had nevertheless had the effect Ron and Hermione had hoped. Though Harry had by no means forgotten about Black, he couldn't brood constantly on revenge if he wanted to help Hagrid. Notice, he went down wanting revenge. He hears about Hagrid's problems. And what's he want to do for Hagrid? He wants to help him. Why? What does Harry feel for Hagrid? Is it sorrow? Empathy? It's love. Hagrid is almost like a father to Harry. Better yet, he's like an uncle to Harry. He's the opposite of Uncle Vernon. He's Uncle Vernon as Vernon should be. I mean, what does he do? Hagrid is always building up Harry. Where do we see Hagrid ever tear Harry down? He doesn't. So, Harry goes down to Hagrid's hut feeling full of the desire for revenge, and he comes out of it feeling nothing but love and pity for Hagrid. Okay? Notice what the narrator says. He couldn't brood constantly on revenge if he wanted to help Hagrid. Why? Because these two things don't mix. If he's going to help Hagrid, he can't be full of revenge. If he's going to be full of revenge, what must his attitude be towards others? Screw him. He's got to focus only on himself. Okay? In Shakespeare's play Hamlet, early on in the play, Hamlet is visited by his father's ghost. His father's ghost tells him, "Your uncle killed me. He killed me so he could take the throne and have my wife. Okay? And after the ghost leaves, Hamlet says, I will from this point on wipe all saws from my memory. By saw, he means everything I've learned in the past. He's saying, I'm going to do a full sweep, a full cleaning of my mind. And the only thing that's going to be left there is revenge. Okay? Means he can't have any room in his mind for love. Which is why he ditches his girlfriend, Ophelia. Causes her to go crazy and commit suicide. Okay? Because he can't have any room in his heart for thinking about somebody else. Okay? So the very next day, Ron and Harry and Hermione go to the library, try to find case studies. Try to find outs for Buckbeak. They come up with all kinds of stuff, but nothing that is really appropriate. Christmas comes, page 222. Harry gets another sweater, as does Ron. And he gets a new broom, a firebolt. Not a Nimbus 2000. He gets the fanciest broom there is. Okay? No card. Ron thinks it was probably Dumbledore. Lupin, maybe. So, they tell Hermione, and Hermione immediately tells McGonagall. They have the Christmas feast and such. We see Sybil Trelawney with more of her predictions and such. And look at the interaction on page 228 and 229 between and 230. Trelawney and McGonagall. Trelawney comes in. Dumbledore says, let me draw you up a chair. And he draws a chair with his wand. And Trelawney sits and she counts out the number of people. She says, I can't sit down because if I do, there will be 13 of us. Bad luck. McGonagall, we'll risk it, Sybil. Do sit down. The turkey's getting stone cold. Okay? Trelawney asked, where is dear Professor Lupin? Top of 229. Dumbledore. He's ill again. Most unfortunate should happen on Christmas Day. McGonagall, but surely you already knew that, Sybil. I mean, you're such a great prognosticator, okay? Fortune teller. Trelawney gives McGonagall a cold look. You can tell there's bad blood between these two. All right? Certainly I knew Minerva, but one does not parade the fact that one is all-knowing. I frequently act as though I am not possessed of the inner eye, so as not to make others nervous. McGonagall, that explains a great deal. She's a good actor, in other words. Okay? Skipping a bit. Let's see. McGonagall comes, takes the firebolt, which really angers Harry and Ron. In the next chapter, chapter 12, the Patronus. Classes start again, and Harry meets with Lupin. And Lupin finds another boggart. Page 236 and following. Lupin says, I've been looking for a boggart for a while, and I found one. So, he says, the spell I'm going to try and teach you is highly advanced magic, Harry. Well beyond ordinary wizarding level. Ordinary wizarding level are the exams you take in your 5th year. Okay? Harry, how does it work? It's called the Patronus charm. How does it work? Well, it conjures up a Patronus, a kind of anti-Dementor. And we talked the other day, what is a Dementor? One who doesn't guide you, one who doesn't aid you, one who doesn't help you. In fact, it is one who misguides misguides you. One who kind of destroys your mind. So the anti-Dementor is the opposite of that. Patronus is a kind of positive force. And notice what Harry thinks of when he thinks of a Patronus. A Hagrid-sized figure holding a large club. Patronus is a kind of positive force. Projection of the very things that the Dementor feeds upon. Hope, happiness, desire to survive. But it can't feel despair. So the Dementors can't hurt it. Notice again, Harry, the charm might be too advanced for you. Excuse me. So what does a Patronus look like? It's unique to the wizard who conjured it. How do you conjure it? Well, you have to focus on a single, and she goes all Disney on us, a single happy memory. She should have thrown in some unicorn dust at the same time, So Harry thinks for a happy memory. He thinks of the first time he flew on a broomstick. So, Lupin says, the incantation is this. Notice, it's not the spell, it's not the charm. He uses the word incantation. What do you do when you are incanting something? Okay, it's kind of a song, but you're invoking, you're calling something out. Expecto Patronum. Expecto. Sounds like our modern English word expect, right? Like I expect, I look for, I'm hoping for, I'm seeking. But it's not that. It's expecto. Ex, out of, pect, the chest, I something out of the chest. Okay? What? Patronum. Patron. Well, what's a patron? A guardian. A protector. A savior. Okay? Expecto also means, from its Latin, also means to throw out of. Okay? That's why when you get sick and you get cough syrup, you can get different kinds of cough syrup. One will be a cough suppressant. Another one is called an expectorant. What's it do? It helps you cough up all the crud that's in your lungs. So, expecto patronum. Harry concentrates on his happy thought. Expecto patronum, expecto patronum, expecto patronum. And he gets a little silvery gas come out of his wand. Lupin says, good job, you ready? Harry says yes. The Dementor comes out, looks at Harry. Harry tries to say the spell. Not Harry, please. Stand aside, girl. Lupin brings Harry back. You all right? Harry, yes. Gives him chocolate. Harry, it's getting worse. I could hear her louder that time. And him, Voldemort. Lupin, if you don't want to continue, no, Harry says. I've got to. Okay? So try to find a better memory. Harry thinks the house championship. Ready? Ready. This time, white fog obscures his senses, page 240. Notice what is happening every time. Okay, keep going. What is happening? Let me put it this way. What's happening to time?
Being obscured.
Keep going. He's going farther and farther back. Every time he has an experience with the Dementors, he goes back to earlier and earlier on the evening when his parents were killed. The first time, all he hears is, "No, not Harry. Take me instead." Now he hears, "Stand aside, silly girl." Okay? This time, what does he hear? "Lily, take Harry and go." He hears his father's voice for the first time that he can remember hearing his father's voice. It's him. Go, run. I'll hold him off. if you know the story, where is James when he says that? They're all downstairs in the living room. James has thrown his wand onto the couch, so he doesn't have it with him. And he can't go Oxio wand, because he needs his wand to do that. Okay? So he says, Lily, take Harry and go. It's him. Go, run. I'll hold him off. Where's he telling her to go? She goes upstairs. The sounds of someone stumbling from a room. A door bursting open. A cackle of high-pitched laughter. And Harry wakes up. I heard my dad. That's the first time I've ever heard him, says Harry. Okay? He tried to take on Voldemort himself to give my mom time to run for it. And yet we're going to see later on, no he didn't. He didn't put up a fight at all. Why? He didn't have anything to put up a fight with. Voldemort came in, dead. You heard James? Yeah. You didn't know my dad, did you? Dad, as a matter of fact, we were friends at Hogwarts. Harry, maybe we should leave it here. Harry, no. I'll have one more go. I'm not thinking of happy enough things. And he thinks of when he found out he was a wizard and he'd be leading the Dursleys. Okay? He hears the screaming, but this time it's muffled like it's coming through a badly tuned radio. And the Dementor halts, and a huge silver shadow comes out of Harry's wand. Hovers beneath Harry and the Dementor. And then Lupin puts the Dementor away. Harry, one more? Come on, one more? No, Lupin says. You've had enough for one night. Gives Harry a bunch of chocolate. And then Harry thinks, well, if you knew my dad, you must have known Sirius Black as well. What gives you that idea? Sorry, just I knew they were friends. Lupin, yes I did, or I thought I did. Okay? Harry goes off to his room, and what does he think? Because we're told, terrible though it was to hear his parents' last moments replayed inside his head, these are the only times Harry had heard their voices since he was a very small child. But he'd never be able to produce a proper Patronus if he half wanted to hear his parents again. Notice the tension he's put in. He'd like to hear his parents' voices. But to do so, he's got to come into the contact with the Patronus, and he doesn't want to come into contact with the Patronus. Harry, they're dead. They're dead. And listening to echoes of them won't bring them back. Notice what he wants to do. He wants to bring them back. Okay? So, we see Ravenclaw play Slytherin. Harry goes off for another lesson with Lupin, page 246. Harry, I thought a Patronus would, I don't know, charge the Dementors down or something, make them disappear. Lupin, the true Patronus, does do that. But you've achieved a great deal in a very short space of time. Okay? And then he asks Lupin, what's under a Dementor's hood? Only people who really know are in no condition to tell us. When the Dementor lowers its hood only to use its last and worst weapon, what's that? They call it the Dementor's kiss, page 247. It's what Dementors do to those they wish to destroy utterly. They kill? Harry. Lupin, oh no, much worse than that. Notice, there are things worse than death. You can exist without your soul, you know, as long as your brain and heart are still working. But you'll have no sense of self anymore, no memory, no anything, no chance at all of recovery. You just exist. Empty shell. Harry, he deserves it. That's what Sirius Black deserves. Lupin, you think so? Do you really think anyone deserves that? Yes, for some things. Who does Harry sound like at this point? Yeah, Frodo. Okay? McGonagall comes, gives Harry his broom back. We're going to skip a bunch. We get Gryffindor versus Ravenclaw. Malfoy and the boys try to scare Harry, and Harry zaps them. Let's see here. Harry wakes up, page 265, because he hears Ron screaming. And Ron says Sirius Black was here with a knife just over me. Okay? And they ask Sir Cadogan. Sir Cadogan, yes, says, yes, of course he was. 269, we get to Snape's grudge. Let's see here. They find out from Hagrid that he's lost the thing. Go to 273. He hasn't lost it yet. They go down to Hagrid's hut. And Harry and Ron do. And he wants to talk to him about Hermione. Okay? Because they've not been paying any attention to Hermione. Top of 274. Ron says, her cat ate Scabbards. Hagrid, because her cat acted like all cats do. What does he mean? You're expecting Crookshanks to not be cat-like. Okay? Harry, well, we should have helped as well, because they find out Hermione's been helping Hagrid every moment she can. Hagrid, I'm not blaming you. God knows you've had enough to be getting on with. Okay? Hagrid tells them Hermione was really upset when Black almost stabbed Ron. Ron, if she'd just get rid of the cat. Hagrid, oh well, people can be a bit stupid about their pets. And we're told Buckwheat is sitting on his bed behind him, spitting out ferret bones onto Hagrid's pillow. Okay? We find out next weekend's Hogsmeade weekend. Harry goes off. He plays a joke on Malfoy, Crabbe and Goyle. Runs back to the school. Is caught by Snape. And Snape finds the map, Marauder's map. And the map revealed itself to him. But not in the same way it revealed itself to Harry. Mr. Mooney presents his compliments, page 287, to Professor Snape, begs him to keep his abnormally large nose out of other people's business. Mr. Prongs agrees with Mr. Mooney, would like to add that Professor Snape is an ugly git. Mr. Padfoot would like to register his astonishment that an idiot like that ever became a professor. Mr. Wormtail bids Professor Snape good day and advises him to wash his hair, the slime ball. Snape's about to, bust a gut. Lupin comes in, says it looks like a practical joke. Snape leaves. Lupin says, I know what this is, Harry. I'm astounded you didn't hand it in, and I can't let you have it back. And then he pulls the final massive guilt trip on Harry. Top of 290. Don't expect me to cover up for you again, Harry. I cannot make you take Sirius Black seriously. But I would have thought that what you have heard when the Dementor was drawn near you would have had more of an effect on you. Your parents gave their lives to keep you alive, Harry. Poor way to repay them. Gambling their sacrifice for a bag of magic tricks. Next chapter, we find out Hagrid's lost his hearing. Right. We have the Quidditch final, which I'm going to skip. Pick up with Professor Trelawney's prediction. End of year exams. It's Harry's turn. He kind of falls asleep. And just before he leaves, page 324, he hears Trelawney. It will happen tonight. He turns around because that's not her normal voice. Sorry? Notice, her eyes start to roll. She looks as though she's about to have a seizure. Harry's thinking of getting her to the hospital wing. And then he hears that same voice. The Dark Lord lies alone and friendless, abandoned by his followers. His servant has been chained these 12 years. Tonight, before midnight, the servant will break free and set out to rejoin his master. The Dark Lord will rise again with his servant's aid, greater and more terrible than ever he was. Tonight, before midnight, in other words, hits replay, and it goes again. Okay? Her head falls forward. Harry's like, you just told me that the Dark Lord's going to rise again tonight. He who must not be named, my dear boy, hardly something to joke about. He said, but you just, I would certainly not presume to predict anything quite as far-fetched as that. Okay? So, Harry, Ron, and Hermione head off to Hagrid's. Because the executioners are coming. So they put on the invisibility cloak, they leave, and as they're leaving, they hear the thud of the axe. Okay? They keep walking. Ron has discovered Scabbers, right, in Hagrid's hut. But Scabbers won't stay put. And Scabbers runs out of Ron's arms. Crookshanks gets away from Hermione. And as they're chasing Scabbers and Crookshanks, big giant black dog grabs Ron, pulls Ron into the Whomping Willow. Harry and Ron go in after it. They make their way to the Shrieking Shack. All right? Ron's on the bed, page 338, and Ron says, Harry, it's a trap. He's the dog. He's an animagus. Harry turns around, and there's Sirius Black, who takes Harry and Ron's wands. Harry and Hermione's wands from them. And he says, I thought you'd come and help your friend. Your father would have done the same for me. Brave of you. Ron, if you want to kill Harry, you have to kill us too. Shh. Lie down. You will damage that leg even more. What does that one sentence by Sirius Black, what should that one sentence by Sirius Black tell them?
That he's not out to get him.
He's not out to get him. He wouldn't say you should lie down and be still or you're going to injure your leg anymore if he's about to kill him or any of them. Okay? Ron, did you hear me? You'll have to kill all three of us. There'll be only one murder here tonight. Harry, why's that? Didn't care last time, did you? Didn't mind slaughtering all those muggles. Hermione's like, Harry, don't anger him, you know. He's a crazy man. Harry, he killed my mom and dad. And what does he do? Notice, he forgets about magic. I don't need a wand. Harry takes on Sirius Black with his bare hands. Hermione's screaming. Harry's got, Black's got his hand around Harry's throat. No, I waited too long. Okay? Black is sprawled at the bottom of the wall, page 341. His thin chest rose and falls rapidly. Harry has his wand, points it right at Black's heart. Going to kill me, Harry? You killed my parents. This isn't Inigo Montoya. He's not like, you killed my father, prepare to Black stares up. I don't deny it. But if you knew the whole story. You sold them to Voldemort. Black. No. You need to understand. I understand a lot better than you think, said Harry. You never heard her, did you? My mom trying to stop Voldemort killing me. Okay? And Crookshanks crawls onto Black's chest and settles himself right over Black's heart. Black tries to get him off, but he won't. What's Crookshanks doing? Protecting him. Okay? So what if he had to kill the cat too, Harry thinks. Okay? They hear a noise, and Lupin comes in. Page 343. Where is he, Sirius? And we'll stop there and pick up with that on